So it's a great pleasure for me to be the person to welcome you on this important occasion, and I hope there are more occasions when we can mark Commonwealth Day in the future. I want to particularly welcome Councillor Rory McGinley, who has come here to represent the Lord Mayor, who is either in America on his way home.
On his way back from San Jose.
On his way back from apparently a business delegation that he took out there. And Mary Kelly, thank you very much for coming from London. Mary is an advocate of us going back to the Commonwealth, and I think, but she has written a wonderful book which I will plug for you, Mary. It's just recently come out, and it's called Crown and Shamrock, and it's about the royalty in Ireland, generally over a period of centuries, royal visits and so on. And it's an extremely good, entertaining book. And let me just say that we in Reform do believe in going back to what we would consider a radically changed Commonwealth to the one we left in 1949. It's completely different. There are 20 million people of Irish descent, believe it or not, living in Commonwealth countries. And there are 54 countries now, compared to, 6 or 7 when we left. And we feel going back is a little bit like going back perhaps to family, to kith and kin. Irish people, after all, do go to Commonwealth countries to work nowadays and start a new life. And we believe that people of all traditions can unite behind this objective to bring the islands closer together. And we believe our future is more important than our past in that regard. Now, our first speaker is Eamon Delaney, a journalist and writer, and after that we will have Ruston, who is from the Commonwealth Secretariat. He's called Cyrus Ruston. And I just want to read you out a little bit about Eamon, which you kindly sent me, thank you. He's an author and commentator. He's a former editor of McGill magazine and the author of the best-selling An Accidental Diplomat, about his time as a diplomat in the Irish Foreign Service. He's written about the need for a greater understanding and realism about the deep and long-standing relationship between Ireland and the UK, and he is supportive of a closer association between the islands. On the subject of the Commonwealth, he supports the idea of Ireland returning to the international alliance, not least for its valuable sporting and cultural links. And he says it is simply a loose association of countries which have the English language in common and were formerly ruled by the British. It includes Australia, Canada and Jamaica, among many others. Cannot see why it should offend, and these days we could get a lot from such an association. Given the mess that we've made of things on our own, it would help to have such support. After all, Europe has only been punishing us with their financial bailouts. So, Eamon's words. Eamon, very welcome, and we look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
In fact, you've teed up very nicely, precisely why I want to, what I wanted to say today in terms of Ireland rejoining the Commonwealth. When I wrote about this topic a number of months ago, I did focus on the cultural sporting links. I talked about in many ways, the British culture of Ireland, which we shouldn't, how hypocritical we can be. We have this crude anti-British nationalism for years on one hand, and then we live a life of English football teams, TV, media, political systems, and millions and millions of people in Britain, Manchester, Liverpool, have Irish roots and Irish connections. I remember as a diplomat was talking about the common travel area being abolished and the need for passports to be introduced. This was the Irish side, and that was very much thrown out the window, and the turmoil it would have caused by Irish people going to visit their cousins in the UK. But I just want to to move it on, because since I wrote that article, I think there are even more compelling reasons why Ireland should think about rejoining the Commonwealth. We've gone through a major economic, financial crisis here. We've seen ourselves exposed, on the one hand, to globalisation and an international banking network, and on the other hand, our sovereignty has been impaired. So we're not quite as on our own as we think we are. In which case, wouldn't it be nice to be a member of another supportive club? We're members of the United Nations, we are of course members of the EU, and I'll talk about that in a second, but wouldn't it be great if we were also to rejoin the Commonwealth and like-minded countries with similar political systems and similar language? Especially given that the country that came immediately to our aid in terms of the bailout was Britain, or Osborne, the Exchequer, offered a number of billions in terms of bailout. A bailout, incidentally, under much better terms than what we were given or imposed upon us by Brussels. And this is a serious topic, because we've now seen the other side of the coin, or the boot, if you like, in terms of our membership of the European Union. And I don't want to bash up on that now, because I am essentially a Europhile, and that I know Bruce Arnold here in front of me will say, told you so about the European project, but really the terms have been very harsh, and we don't have anywhere else to go. But wouldn't it have been nice if the Commonwealth was there, as I say, like-minded countries, speaking a similar language, both phonetically and financially, there to support us? Also, what were the reasons for the kind of superficial or maybe valid anti-British feeling? It was the North. The North is now bedded down. The nationalist population are living happily within the UK, with the nationalist dimension honoured and respected through the Good Friday Agreement. When I grew up, and I'm considered still something of a young fella, perhaps now, it was endlessly the talk of the British withdrawal from Ireland and United Ireland. You never, and I mean never, hear that kind of talk now. There's a maturity, the situation has moved on, and here is a further compelling reason for us not to be offended by the idea of going back into the Commonwealth, or offended by these links, which are real, durable links between our two islands. I mean, if Sinn Féin are prepared to run a government in Stormont as part of the United Kingdom and do it kind of happily, as far as I can see, then surely they cannot lecture to us about much more innocuous connections. That's really my point, that we have moved on to a situation where there's nothing but benefits, and the reasons against that are against such a reassociation are minimal. I mean, we just spoke here about Ireland, independent foreign policy, so-called, and the statement by the Foreign Minister and the Prime Minister, the Taoiseach, about the situation in Libya. You've heard those statements. No, you haven't, because we haven't had any. Not a single one since the beginning of the Libyan crisis have we had a statement by our Foreign Minister or our Prime Minister and Taoiseach. I know we had an election on, but it's not an excuse. Brian Cowan was acting Foreign Minister. He can't have had all that much to do during the election. He could have spoken out as Ireland, a country which has had apparently a traumatic experience in terms of our past, on behalf of the Libyan people. Instead, we watched the British Prime Minister daily, William Hague daily on TV making statements, and the French Prime Minister Sarkozy, Berlusconi, Obama, you name it. So what does this say about us as this disconnected small republic, which seems to have satisfied with its own world and not have a link to the world? If we were members of the Commonwealth, you can be sure the Commonwealth would have consulted among each other, and we would have come out with some kind of statement. It's just something that has happened recently as in the news. I think it proves to us that we're not playing some kind of role on the world stage as an individual country. So we remain as members of the EU. Hopefully we can get better terms for our bailout and more sympathetic response. It is, after all, a European banking crisis that has led in many ways to the Irish situation, apart from our own culpability. But it would be nice that in tandem with that and our continuing membership of the United Nations, if we thought about going back in with our friends and cousins in the Commonwealth. It's good enough for Australia, Canada, Jamaica, New Zealand. Surely it's good enough for us. And I hope that you will go forth and spread the message, as Robin has been doing, and others will, Bruce as well. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say.